Hello and welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host, and we're going to be in the present today. We're going to be speaking about the presence process with the founder, the developer of the presence process, Michael Brown. Michael?
Hey, how are you doing?
Okay, you sound very echoey out there.
Well, it's echoey. Not only is it echoey, but there is a gardening service that has just moved in outside my window, so we're going to have to be present with that.
Okay, well, let's try to just to be as articulate as possible so we can hear your words properly.
Okay.
And in studio, I have someone who has been following the presence process for a while and is experienced with it and can help us understand it, is Tina Fellis. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you.
So this is the presence process. A lot of people haven't heard about it. And Michael, you've been on a journey with this for 7 years, right?
Well, actually, I started working on bringing it out as a process 7 years ago, but probably now 14 years that I've been on the journey with it.
That's great. And a lot of your experiences have just helped refine it. I'm sure that it's been a growth experience, and now you feel very complete about it. I read an email this morning that you're feeling that the presence is very present.
Well, all the work that's required for anyone to... Everything that's required for anyone to do this work is now available in the 2 books and on my website. So my intent to make this procedure available to people is now accomplished. And, people that require the work, I know, will be drawn to it. And those that are ready for it, because it's actually not for everyone to do this work. Only people that have the capacity to do it will be drawn to it. And everything they require is provided. So I've fulfilled my part in making it available, and, I'll go on to the next part of my journey now, whatever that's going to be.
How will we know if we're the right people for this, other than maybe trying it and saying, I guess it doesn't work, or it does work?
Well, if it comes into your awareness, then it's most likely for you. If it doesn't even come into your awareness, then it won't. You see, you don't have to know that. The heart knows that. All this work is run by the heart, which is very hard for the mental body to get, because the mental body believes it's God. That's why we have sayings like thought creates, or I think, therefore I am. It's because the mental body believes it's God. But actually, what's happening is really coming from a heart place. And a person whose heart is ready to integrate the emotional baggage that creates all the hypnosis and programming we experience as human beings, a person whose heart knows that they're ready for that will draw them towards the work. It's not about you finding it and you deciding whether you're ready for it. That's a mental body approach. These things come to us and are given to us when we're ready to receive them.
I guess I'm drawn to this because it fits my process. I've been working with as a counselor with people for many years, and so much more recently than before, people want to have answers, and I keep on being drawn to just ask them what's in their heart, and the heart knows, and people say, no, you know for me, tell me, or they'll want to figure it out mentally, and then they say, but I don't know what's in my heart, and then I say, well, just learn to live more with it, and your heart will start talking to you more. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
In a very simplistic level, it is. What this work is about integrating the emotional imprinting that is passed from generation to generation, from parent to child.
Just a minute. 1 second. It is hard to hear you. I think the lawnmower is right behind you right now.
Right.
And so you're talking about genetic imprinting?
Generational imprinting.
Which is in our genes, right?
Well, the gene is an effect. It's not a cause of anything. This is a misunderstanding by human beings. Is we think that the genes cause our experience, but actually the genes reflect the nature of our current experience. And the genes are just a reflection of an energetic circumstance. The genes are a physical thing, and the physical aspect of our experience is an effect. It's not a cause of anything.
Well,
like a mirror.
Right, but the way I see it is that our ancestors keep on creating new genetic patterns, and that
these patterns, exactly. Well, they don't create new ones. In fact, we're living patterns that have been relived over and over for countless generations. We're living, a ghost is a person who wanders around doing the same thing over and over. They don't even know that they're dead. And they just keep repeating the same behavior over and over until someone shows them the light. And the majority of humanity is living as a ghost, repeating behaviors and patterns, energetic patterns, that have been passed from generation to generation. For example, the Iraq war going on now is an ancient war between Persians and Christians. It's been going on. It's actually a memory. And so what this work is enabling us to remove the hypnosis, to be able to see the memory, to process the memory, and therefore to enter the present moment as it is, not as it is reflecting the past to us and the future fears based on the past. So to awaken ourselves from that, we have to process the emotional imprinting brought from generation to generation. That's the basis.
So, Michael, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I have had a diagnosis of it started out with breast cancer, and and then I was fine for 3 years, and then it moved to my liver, metastatic on the liver. So I have gone through the 10-week process.
Right.
And from what you're saying, I have been very conscious of the blueprint that I have carried that made me vulnerable to this cancer.
How much of your anger have you been able to become aware of?
A lot.
Yeah, because you see, that's why you're so livid. You see, your liver, you get livid, right?
Yes.
So so whatever happened with the breast. It depends on how you worked with the breast cancer. If you just had it removed physically, you can have it removed physically and change your diet and change the way you think. That doesn't impact the causal point.
Right. I've been working on the causal points, and that's why I've been so in love with your book, because it has taken me there. Yes.
So the causal point will be an energetic circumstance, which we may call fear, anger, or grief, but these again are just words for energetic. And going in and releasing that, or not even releasing it, resolving it, is the work that will impact then again your physical experience. So the body is a symptom, meaning symptom means some time. It's going to reflect a piece of unintegrated time. So what has been your experience of the impact it's had on you from doing the work?
It's been profound. Because I've been on this journey for many, many years and have been able to identify a lot of the patterns, but I haven't been able to move through them in the way that I have with this process.
Right.
Now I have to ask, Michael. I have to ask, if this is not a mental but a heart process, how do you move through your anger, other than experiencing it? But what if there are points to it or objects to it having to do with our childhood or our relationships?
Well, all of those are just reflections. The thing is, one has to comprehend the relationship we're having with our emotional condition at the moment. We're sedating and controlling it because it's so deeply uncomfortable. Our behaviors of sedation and control are almost so invisible to us that it takes work for us to see how we're sedating and controlling our experience, because we don't want to feel what's going on there. And that's the one fisted punch. The other fisted punch is we're manipulating our ongoing experience to add a feeling we would rather be having than the one that's there. So the work is first of all about seeing the sedation and control, and then seeing our behavior, our manipulation behavior, to try and get other feelings, to try and feel better, to energetically stop all of that. The moment we stop all of that and allow what's actually going on in the emotional body to run according to its own flow, it will organically go to a point of resolution, because there's no longer, when we sedate and control and when we manipulate to add a feeling we're not having that we would rather be having, which is the basis of most spirituality and religion, is that they promise us something that we're not having, that we'd rather be having. All that behavior we're doing to ourselves, once you take that away, the energetic circumstance will actually run like a stream to the ocean. It'll run to its point of resolution, and that's not our work. Our work is to allow it, and it does that. That's why I'm saying this is not a mental body thing. The only part of the mental body is for it to realize that the emotional body is the causal point, to do the work to get our awareness of what's going on in the emotional body, to an awareness of our sedation and controlled behavior, how we're manipulating things to try and feel better. The moment we can bring awareness to that and actually start surrendering that behavior, then the emotional condition automatically runs to a point of resolution.
How do you trigger that awareness?
Well, it's about moving along the pathway of awareness. This is what the presence process is about. We first have to physically get into this body, because most of us don't live in the body. We live in our thoughts. And then we have to bring to our awareness the authentic emotional condition. And in the process, we use the mental body to do that, and we use a breathing technique. And what the breathing technique and the mental process do is they anchor us in the moment. They cause us to anchor ourselves in the moment. When you anchor yourself in the moment just for a few minutes every day, we do it for 15 minutes twice a day in this process. When you anchor yourself in the moment, you're going to find out why it is you're running away from this moment. In other words, the discomfort that we're running away from is going to arise in our awareness. It'll arise as physical discomfort, as mental thought forms, and eventually, as we get deep into the work, as pure felt perception that doesn't have any words around it. The intent is to get to that felt perception and allow it to be.
It's sometimes, I can imagine for those who haven't experienced this, there are times, at least in my life, where I'm about to go to sleep at night, and when I finally lie down and just take a sigh of relief and kind of change my thoughts into relaxation to sleep, all of a sudden some senses will come up that I go, oh, this is what's underneath all the mind talk I've been in all day. And I'll realize what's more important in the moment in my life, which is it comes from a deeper place that's not in the mind.
Well, this is, as a human being, we're having three levels of experience simultaneously all the time, and we interact with that experience according to where our awareness is anchored. So we're having a physical experience. For example, if whenever we get upset, there are three things happening simultaneously. The one is a physical circumstance, which is usually the trigger of the upset, like someone doing or saying something or something happening. Then there's the mental circumstance, in which is the story we tell ourselves about what we think is going on and what it means and what we think we're supposed to do about it. But underlying that is an emotional signature, a purely felt experience. For most of us, we're not aware of it. We project that out through our behavior onto others in the world and blame them for it. But underlying it all is this emotional signature, this felt experience. Our task at this point of our development is to become aware of that emotional signature, that felt aspect, and allow it to be. In other words, to stop sedating it and controlling it and trying to wish we were having another experience other than that, but to allow that to be, and it will unfold to a point of resolution organically. And that the unfolding of it is not up to us. It doesn't happen according to my schedule or according to how I think. It doesn't require my understanding about what happened when I was a child. All of that is irrelevant. All it requires is that I feel it, and I feel it without placing conditions. In other words, I be with it without condition, which goes completely against the grain of everything we're taught in this world. The entire world is going away from that. Right? We don't want the experience we're having. We want to have a better one. We want to have a more expensive one, a more elaborate one, a more pleasurable one. But we don't want to have the experience we are actually having. And this work only begins, really it begins to accelerate when I validate everything that happens to me as being valid. It's what's required, and I respond to it rather than react to it.
One of the things that's happening for me, Michael, I finished the process about 2 weeks ago. So now I'm in a different place of working it, so to speak.
Right.
And I had a blood test yesterday, and the cancer marker went up just a tiny bit. It had been on its way down, almost back down to normal, and it went up a little bit. And my first reaction was that fear kind of thing. And then I feel like there's something like a cushion underneath me that's saying, it just kind of rises me up to no, it's just what it is.
Well, that fear is valid. That's still an emotional signature related to your cancer. And so in there, what you want to do is find out where that fear is in your body and be with it. You must accept that fear is valid. If you invalidate it, you're again sedating and controlling yourself and wishing you were having another experience. Your fear in that moment is your teacher. That is the Christ, right? The Christ is the crisis that comes to awaken us, like a thief in the night. It's the one that gives you the fright. That's the healing right there. But if you invalidate it, if you explain it away, if you go to your happy place, if you do all that stuff, you're actually interfering with your journey, right?
I understand completely.
This is very important. What you're talking about is that we're constantly in denial of our senses, and what you're doing is you're putting a map to the body in a way that we can allow our senses to reside and be aware of them.
We can talk a lot about this, and it can be very abstract for your listeners. So what I would encourage your listeners to do, if they want to taste this work, they can go onto my website, which is called the Presence Portal. They can go onto the audio excerpts page, the audio page, and click on the one-on-one session, and they can do a free one-on-one session. Most of the website is free. They can go and do that one-on-one session, and it will give them a procedure that they can do with themselves to show themselves what this work is about. And when they get what that procedure is, they will get how dangerous, how self-destructive it is to continually keep invalidating our experience. Right?
Right. So let me just go over that. The Presence Portal is the website.
P-A-L.
And there's in the audio section, there's a one-on-one audio that they can click on.
I would recommend they listen to the one-on-one audio, and there's also a talk there called validating your experience, or your experience is valid, and listen to that. It's very important right now as human beings that we validate our experience, because the whole world, the advertising, religion, most spiritual paths, all politics is telling us we should be having another experience other than the one we're having, and they tell us what to do and, the promises they make. But the fact is the experience each human being is given in each moment is their divine gift from the universe, the gift through which they can awaken into absolute full awareness.
And one way, let me just interrupt, sorry, I wanted to give a metaphor for this.
Yes.
And the metaphor is the recent U.S. Regime of the last 7.5 years, that many people are in denial of. We had, when Bush was appointed president the first time, my experience was that this is correct, that obviously we can't deny this. This is where we're at. This is what the truth is, and it's obviously correct for us to have a regime that we'll be very, very sorry about. But for some reason, we needed to go through that, and so
we're so much in denial that we actually believe Obama now can save us, right?
Yeah,
we're so much in denial that we're actually prepared to run along the path Obama will promise of hope. But the only hope is when we take responsibility for our own experience. Everyone's standing up saying they can do it for us.
Well,
so
but
now everybody's going to run to Obama. They're going to run to anyone who promises to deliver them to the promised land. And that's the big problem here, is that we have to take that responsibility ourselves. If we go and follow him with the same enthusiasm as we followed Bush, we're going to end up in the same place, because no one man can rescue any other man, right, or any other woman. We have to do that for ourselves.
And yet there will be this going on in the world, and we can see it from another place.
Right.
And the idea is not to deny that Obama can be a big help to us. It's not to have mind talk about it, and to be in the presence of the unfolding, because we're going to be disappointed one way or another in life all the time. There are always things that happen.
We're only disappointed when we give our power to someone else.
Or when we give our power to disappointment.
Yeah, whatever. We're only disappointed if we don't take responsibility for our own experience. This is about self-empowerment. And so when we don't do that, we'll always look for a politician, someone in business, someone in religion, someone in spirituality to take care of us and to lead us in the way. But that's not what's required now. It's what's required now is for a human being to stand up and take responsibility for their own experience. That's what's required. And that's why I'm saying this work is not for everybody, because most people would rather follow somebody else rather than their own experience. Obama's got to take care of his own experience. Yes, he's going to be the next messenger, just like Bush was a messenger. Obama will be a different sort of messenger. Politicians are just messengers, but they can't do anything for us that's real. If we want to do something real for ourselves, we need to remove our emotional imprinting that keeps us hypnotized. And we can only do that for ourselves.
Well, this work is prophetic of the Aquarian age, because we are moving away from hierarchy, moving away from giving power to others and bringing it back more into ourselves.
Now, politics is necessary when a human being cannot feel from within, cannot get their insight from within. Then you need to give them rules and regulations because they don't know how to behave. But when I connect with my heart and I can feel the consequence of my presence in the world, no one needs to tell me how to behave, because when there is love, there is no law. I only need laws if I'm not connected with my feeling body. This work opens us to our feeling body, and our feeling body shows us the consequences immediately of our presence in the world, and then we don't need someone to tell us what's right or wrong behavior or what's appropriate or inappropriate. And that's the invitation of this age. Can we all connect from within like bees in a beehive? No, bees don't fly into each other. Excuse me, sorry, you're in my way. They don't do this because they're all coming from the same source. They're taking the signal from the same source. And human beings have that capacity too.
From what you're saying, I think the work is among the people who can take that responsibility the soonest of being able to trust their emotions and being closest to being free, because they can be all right. There's so many people who have to put all kinds of armor around them still, and this is the kind of work that can help open doors. And as you said originally, that's only certain people who are ready for this now, but presumably we're evolving more and more so that, and maybe the people who do this work can be examples, role models for others.
Absolutely. It's not that I'm against Obama or for Bush or anything. What I'm saying is I would never ask Obama to take care of my heart. Do you understand what I'm saying? He can take care of governmental stuff, sure. I'm sure he'll be much better at that, maybe. But he can't take care of my heart. That's my responsibility. And really what many of us humans are still doing is we're expecting someone else to take care of our heart. And we must take care of our own heart. Well, that's the place that we've got to move to.
Right, but it's not a solitary world, and we have so many people out there who we're interacting with, including a presidential candidate and presumably the president, are people who and the news media. They're all pushing our brains all the time, and we're going to have opinions. And we're going to, the idea, I think, is not to not have opinions, but to separate. Excuse me? What's that?
I said I have very strong opinions, and we all have opinions.
Right.
So if that's valid, I mean, it's valid. All I am saying to people is really, reach within, develop that capacity of the heart, and let it show you what's really going on, as opposed to being shown from the outside. And deciphering that through your fear, anger, and grief, as opposed to through your joy, right?
Right, and perhaps if we look at the heart as being all that really counts in our lives, and if we have been to any funerals and we hear eulogies always talk about people's hearts, and so we understand that that's really what we're imprinting in this life is the way our heart behaves. And so if we can take responsibility for that and not play all these mind games all the time with ourselves, as you're saying, we have to learn how to get out of the way by doing this process, by allowing ourselves to experience the presence.
It's not only this process. Anything that brings us into the moment and helps us to recognize the validity of the moment we're in, whether it's this process or any other emotional work going on the planet at the moment, is very important. So, the presence process is a way. It's not the way. There are many other people doing very important emotional work on the planet, and all of that is valid because that's the part of our development we need to take responsibility for. We're developed mentally enough, we're developed physically enough. We're so mentally developed, we've gone mental. But now it's time to develop our heart space. And so any work that accomplishes that is to be applauded and for a person to be curious about and see, does this work for me? Is this giving me is this providing the consequences that actually move me forward or not? Use your life experience as a barometer of whether anything works or not. You will know if something works because it will impact your life in a very real way. If you have to think about it and visualize and nothing's really going on, let it go and find something that really moves you, right? And that's really it's about is doing the emotional work now, no matter how it comes to us.
It seems, though, that it's helpful to have guides who can remind us to get out of our heads.
Yes.
I have a question, Michael, on that subject. You were talking about groups, and this is individual work. But as a psychotherapist and a spiritual psychotherapist, that's my bent. I feel compelled to share this with people and everybody that kind of comes in my pathway.
Absolutely. But the thing is, what they will take from you is the resonance of your experience of it, not your words.
That's perfect.
Yes.
And not your example is what they will take. 90% of what you communicate to them will be the resonance of your direct experience of the work.
They don't need to know. They don't need to know how smart you are. They need to know how okay you are.
Well, if you actually transform your life with heart work, it actually radiates from you like a nuclear radioactivity. So people get that. They might not be able to recognize it, but when you tell them then about what you're doing, they're more likely to trust you and dive into their experience of it.
Right.
If you've actually used the work on yourself.
Right. If we can come from that place of being okay anyway. I always tell people that's the bottom line. Are you okay anyway? And I think the anyway is a difficult place.
If I'm not okay, then I'm just going to be okay with that too.
Well, that's anyway. That's the anyway, and that's the word. It sounds very nondescript or casual, but it's a very hard place to get to. And once you're there, I think it's the most magnificent opportunity to experience life.
Well, I want to say, Michael, that I love you for doing this work because it has been freeing and a gift to me.
The greatest gift to me is when someone actually does this work and actually goes in and actually, because when I impact my experience in a real way, I impact the way I relate to my immediate birth family, I impact the way I relate to every human being, and I become a big tree that puts shade out in this blistering heat world. And people can then come into the shade, and when people come into the shade and can rest for a while, they can start to gain some sort of awareness and start to do the work themselves. And so everyone who does this work becomes shady tree for other people. And to me, so I'm really grateful when anyone has the courage, because either we're a warrior or we're just going to worry,
This is the perfect example of how to save the world, is to create a brilliant light within yourself.
Absolutely. That's the only way. There is no other way but to say, that's what to me was the essential teaching of Jesus, is what is misinterpreted. He's saying, I am the way, I am the light, none come to the Father but through me. That's not what he was saying. He was saying, my experience is the way, my experience is the light. I cannot enter the vibrational but going through my own experience, and the same is true for you. So when we accept our own experience as valid, that becomes the way, that becomes the straight and narrow. But if I think someone else's experience is what I'm supposed to be having, I'm going to be lost.
That's right. And so this is an opportunity, the Presence Process at thepresenceportal.com. I really enjoyed your website, and listening to that one-on-one process was very helpful. And at the end of it, it was a great feeling I had of surrender, of allowing, and of being. And so I really recommend that the audience tune into that and have that experience. And then from that, I think we're braver, because we can then be more open to anything that goes on around us, because we can immediately surrender again.
Yeah, when I trust that what's happening to me is deliberate, and the word deliberate contains the word liberate. In other words, that what is happening in my life is coming to liberate me, not to hurt me. Maybe to show me where I'm already hurting, but not deliberately to hurt me. It's coming to liberate me. Then suddenly my whole life experience takes on a very different hue. It becomes this extraordinary adventure. But if I believe that my life experience is not supposed to be happening, that I'm, a sinner, and that everything that I'm doing is wrong and bad, and I'm supposed to be having another, more heavenly, then I'm stuck. It's like if a child doesn't spit out its food, it just gets weak and confused. And most of us are spitting out the food that the universe is giving us, which is our current experience. It's our nutrition for evolution. And it's very important we start digesting our experience so that we can have the nutrition required for our evolution.
And to see the conflict in our life as the opportunity to resolve our issues, so that we're not afraid of that conflict, but we can actually hold it in a deeper truth of being okay anyway.
Absolutely. That's it, 100%. That's the core of the work. Be able to recognize that, to recognize the crisis as the truth.
That's right. That's wonderful. Michael, thank you so much. And there is, you have something going on in Connecticut soon?
Yeah, I have a talk going on in Connecticut. People can look on the website and presentations 2008. I have a talk in Connecticut. I have a talk in Colorado. I have a talk in Aspen. And then I'm heading to Mexico to the beach.
Oh, good. Hopefully I'll see you on the beach in Mexico.
That'll be wonderful. Bring a surfboard.
I love Mexican beaches. I'm there often myself. So thank you so much for talking with us today. This is very helpful, and I'm excited that the audience can learn about the presence process. Michael Brown, thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
And Tina, thank you
both for the conversation.
Sure, our pleasure. And Tina, thank you for being a guest today.
My pleasure.
And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew. And I can be reached at HeartRiver, HeartRiver.org.